Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy, and you're reading with Jimmy. This is the Quick Takes, 10-minute quick take of The Diary of a Madman, subtitled Madness Class in the Mind's Slow Collapse. Welcome, everybody. This is Jimmy's Quick Takes. What if I told you that a civil servant, invisible to the world, begins hearing dogs speak? He starts reading the dog's letters, and eventually he declares himself the King of Spain. What would you think of that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, that's The Diary of a Madman by Nikolai Gogol, one of the boldest explorations of madness, social pressure, and isolation. In literary, this is a classic. That's why it's on my website, and I invite you to read it with me after this 10-minute breakdown. It's hilarious until it's not. So this is Quick Takes, where I'm going to break this down in 10 minutes, make you interested in reading with me, right? It's a little, this is just a quick take. So let's crack it open right away and see what the heck this story is about. The setting is 19th century Russia, inside the mind and life of a government clerk who begins writing a diary. The main character is an anonymous narrator. We never know his name, so that means an anonymous narrator inside the story. This is diary narration. So he's basically could be any of us. He's a 42-year-old minor bureaucrat. He's a clerk, right? He lives a lonely, invisible life. And then reality starts to slip. It starts small. He's late for work. He's annoyed with his boss on the way. He's running around. He's infatuated with the director, his boss's daughter. And so far, that's familiar, right? You're working, you got a boss, there's a daughter, blah, blah, blah. But then he starts to overhear dogs talking in the street. Now, if I went up to you and I said, I heard a conversation by some dogs, you would immediately know, right, that Jimmy's a little nuts. Well, he's writing in his diary. He doesn't tell everybody that yet. He just writes in his diary. That's why this is such a classic. He finds letters that the dogs wrote to each other about their owners. Now, you and I both know dogs don't write, right? Well, he finds these letters. The question is, when you read the story with Jimmy, who wrote the letters? He begins to believe that he's destined for greatness. He's not just a clerk. And soon he realizes he's King Ferdinand VIII of Spain. And from here, the diary loses all sense of time. The entries are dated with nonsense. The writing slips into paranoia. Madness spirals out of control. This is an extraordinary opportunity to go into the mind of someone losing their mind. Do you often think, am I crazy? Have you ever thought that? Am I crazy? Are you? Here's a case where we can look at this anonymous narrator and see just what happens when he slips away. It's actually a funny story until it's not. It becomes a tragedy. So what's the real deal here? Well, this first-person narrator doesn't just tell us the story. He paints in the diary a vivid picture into the mind that loses his mind. Gogol was a master of satire and surrealism. He used insanity to expose a society obsessed with titles and ranks and status. Like, does that sound familiar now, huh? We see into the mind of someone losing his mind. So it's not just a story about madness. It's actually about bureaucracy, isolation, and the crushing effects of social invisibility. We all want to be noticed, don't we? We all want to mean something. We've got to mean something. Who is among us like this? In Russian literature, this story kicked open the door for psychological insight, interior, a whole world unfolding inside a troubled mind. And I invite you, when you read it with me, you're going to experience that, and you yourself will not only laugh, but you'll realize that this could happen to anybody. Aristotle defined envy, which is what the anonymous narrator suffers from, as pain at the sight of another's good fortune. Do you have envy? It's stirred by those who have what we ought to have or think we ought to have. Why does he have that? Why can't I have that? By the way, envy is one of the 7 deadly sins. And some of the themes you'll find in this wonderful story is social hierarchy and status. The narrator is desperate to rise above his clerk job. But in a world where your title defines you, How many titles define us? Oh, he's the boss, right? He's the CEO. Madness becomes a kind of rebellion. Well, why is he the CEO? I could be the CEO. Fantasy is escape. Dogs talking? Letters that the dogs wrote? The delusions are a tragic attempt to be seen as important, right? One day he's a man, the next he's a king, and eventually he's nothing but a tortured patient, stripped of everything, even time. The diary style lets us experience his unraveling from inside. What's real? What's not real? It's wonderfully translated. I think it was Andrew R. McAndrew that translated this, but we'll double check that when you read it with Jimmy. We are confronted with reality. How thin is the line between sanity? There's a thin line between sanity and insanity, isn't there? There's a thin line between good and evil, between love and hate. Behind the jokes, the narrator is desperate for connection. These jokes are only because we're reading what he writes, right? It's a prelude to call stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness technique was invented by James Joyce, a famous English writer. It's really where you have it's just words put together, no grammar, no punctuation. And that's what you're going to find in here. It's a prelude to the stream of consciousness technique, which is used by these Russian writers. So why does this Diary of a Madman matter today? Why is this important today? Why should we care? It's 19th century. Who cares about a guy going off the rails? Well, we all crave recognition. So the narrator's breakdown starts with the universal question. Does anyone see me? Am I invisible? Sometimes it's good to be invisible. We'll talk about that. In the story analysis, imagine image defines your worth in work, school, social media. We're still judged, aren't we? Social status. Oh, look at there. They're with the in crowd, right? What about me? Who defines that? That's what you're going to read about in this story. Who defines who you are? Alice in Wonderland is on this website. It's all about who are you? That's what the caterpillar asks Alice. Because the mind is vulnerable. We all have our limits. Some are closer than we'd like to admit. This story is funny. It is. But until it's not funny. And that's the tonal shift. Delusion can be comforting. His madness isn't just an illness. It's escape from a world that left him behind. There's a quote in that picture there. That's the end of the story. I don't want to be a spoiler alert. But that mother, this is a tragic story. Jimmy lost it when he read the ending story there. It's emotionally charged. He's crying out for his mother because he's in the insane asylum. Okay? But it ends on this crazy note. By the way, have you heard that the Day of Algiers has a wart on his nose? So he's suffering, and then suddenly he flips over to try and make something goofy, say something goofy. Calling all readers. Come on down. You're on the website now. Why don't you read Diary of a Madman with me? That was 10 minutes. That's the breakdown of what you're going to read with me. You're on the website. You can go to my YouTube channel and read it. And I want to ask you a question before you leave. When someone starts acting strangely, are they crazy? Or just finally speaking a truth that the world refuses to hear? Sometimes, like Galileo was judged to be crazy when he said that the earth goes around the sun. Because people used to believe the earth was the center of the universe. And Galileo came along and said, no, we're going around the sun. It's the exact opposite. No, Galileo, you're crazy. When someone starts acting strangely, are they crazy? That's my quick take. Send me an email, Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com, Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. This is what I'll leave you with this thought. This is what you'll see when you come read Diary of a Madman with me. I read it in 55 minutes. This was the 10-minute breakdown. Come on down and read every word with me. And then I'm going to give you an hour and a half analysis and interpretation of this wonderful story. Wonderful story. And by the way, I do not have a wart on my nose. Sorry. Thanks for stopping by. Bye. Come on and read it with me.